Who are you? What's your role? And who do you work for?
ETL Schwartz. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Commodore. And yeah, I work for Commodore.
What are 3 emerging Kubernetes tools that you are keeping an eye on?
Ooh, good question. The first one, I'll take not a tool, but GPU on top of Kubernetes as one of the biggest trends that we see across the industry. eBPF, mainly a cluster-to-cluster communication. I see it as a huge pain point and technology that is now gaining the popularity. And I will go for cluster API or clusters as CATL as a movement that is starting to take off.
John McBride expressed that Kubernetes is a platform of the future for AI and ML, particularly for scaling GPU compute. Do you agree with this assessment? And what challenges do you see in running AI workloads on Kubernetes?
Yeah. So I think that this is where we're going. I'm not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but the industry is going to train everything and do everything on top of Kubernetes. I think the biggest challenge is Kubernetes troubleshooting and optimization is super tricky. People are purchasing from AWS or physical GPUs that cost them tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars, but they are unable to utilize them because of issues, problems, and a lot of different failures. So we need to make sure that this very valuable resource, which is a GPU, is extorted to its maximum, and it's really not the case.
Our guest, Colleen, said, I see Kubernetes as a platform, not just a container orchestration tool. What's your perspective on Kubernetes evolution beyond container orchestration?
Yeah, I think container orchestration is the base that allow us to build all of those platforms on top of Kubernetes. But looking at the future, 5 years from now, I think Kubernetes is going to become so dominant that it's not really going to be about Kubernetes as much as Kubernetes is not really on top of Linux, even if it is using it. It's around giving the developers, giving the people who write the code, the best platform to achieve the business logic. And I think as Kubernetes is becoming more and more successful, it's going to be less obvious and less prominent. Again, same as Linux.
Our guest Artem stated, if you deploy Grafana on Prometheus, it only allows you to see what's happening in the system. I think that does not solve any problems. What do you consider a complete observability solution beyond Grafana and Prometheus?
Yeah, I think Grafana and Prometheus is one part of it. APM is another one, error tracking is another one, and GitOps and the Git and the code is usually where everything originated from. So I think in order to have a real good experience when it comes to troubleshooting and solving issues, you need to be in all of those different layers, from the source code to Jenkins or GitHub Actions, Argo CD, the application itself, Datadog, Prometheus, and then some tool to take all of these data points into one coherent story. So I think being in all of the different layers, that's the only way.
Kubernetes turned 10 years old last year. What should we expect in the next 10 years?
Again, my prediction is everyone is going to move to Kubernetes. I think this, I'm saying this for the last 5 years, but it keeps on happening. Stateful application, GPUs, everything is going to be on top of Kubernetes. And again, I think in 10 years from now, Kubernetes will be very similar to Linux in nature. It's going to be extremely popular. Everyone is going to run on top of Kubernetes, but it will be much more mature, meaning the question will be what will be developed on top of Kubernetes? What is the next abstraction maybe on top of Kubernetes?
ETL, I want to do a bit of an experiment, something we've actually never done with on CubeFM.
Sure.
Can you say the most technically nerdy thing possible in 30 seconds?
Oh, it's so I'll do buzzword and technical. So Commodore, what we're currently developing is RCA, root cause analysis for Kubernetes. We're using the agentic approach, using AWS Bedrock and Cloud 3.5 by Anthropic. What we're doing very interesting is the RAG that we're using is actually more than a normal RAG. It uses agents that can call other agents as part of the process. So it's to take agentic model running on the cloud, calling other agentic models in order to calculate the full root cause analysis, helping our users to mimic what a good SRE would do when solving an issue.
Love it. You're the first, you're not going to be the last. What's next for you?
What's next for me? Yeah. Commodore and Kubernetes. We spent the last 5 years building the best tool for Kubernetes, troubleshooting. We expanded to day 2 Kubernetes management. And I think going forward, it's going to be more Kubernetes, more complex, and a tool like ours that helps to simplify it is going to become even more dominant. So the future for me is more Kubernetes, more issues, more customers.
You also mentioned, previously about, Kubernetes and safer workloads as it relates to AI and ML. I actually got to know your company when I was running the Data on Kubernetes community back in 2020-21. And so with that in mind, you said that Commodore is now tackling these day 2 challenges. How's that process been? What recommendations would you give for companies out there that are facing those day 2 problems?
Yeah, super hard to implement like AI inside a company. I think the most important thing is to start small, start with something that is very easy to understand if you got it right, and only then build on top of that. I think a lot of companies are trying to tackle a huge task as the first task, and they simply fail and fail and fail. So start small and make sure that the first iteration that you do actually works. Building something with AI is super easy. Building something good and reliable is super hard, and you need to understand that.
How can people get in touch with you?
LinkedIn, Twitter, GitHub, phone call, whatever, I'm available and happy to talk always about Kubernetes.